May 1945. The smoke over Berlin hadn't even cleared yet, and while the world was dancing in the streets celebrating the end of a nightmare, I was sitting in a cold, windowless room in Virginia, holding a pen that was about to commit the greatest moral heist in the history of the United States. I am 99 years old, and I am the last man alive who saw the original unredacted folders of Operation Paperclip before we sanitized them for your textbooks. You've been told that we hunted the monsters, that we brought the villains of the Third Reich to justice at Nuremberg, but that is the first and biggest lie. While the public was watching the hangman's noose, we were quietly scrubbing the blood off the hands of 2,600 Nazi scientists and giving them American citizenship. Why did we call it Operation Paperclip? Because when a dossier came across my desk that proved a man was an ardent Nazi, a war criminal, or a member of the SS, we didn't arrest him. We simply took a paperclip, attached a new Judy fake biography over his real records, and moved him to the national security pile. We traded our soul for a rocket engine, and I am here at 99 to tell you that the very foundation of modern American technology is built on a graveyard that we intentionally covered up. I want you to look at the man you call the father of the space age, Wernher von Braun. To you, he is the hero of NASA who put Neil Armstrong on the moon, a charming visionary who appeared on Disney specials. But in the files I held in 1947, he was an SS major. He was the man who stood in the tunnels of Mittelwerk, where 20,000 slave laborers were worked to death building his V-2 rockets. I have read the declassified testimonies that were never meant for your eyes. Survivors who saw von Braun walk past the hanging bodies of saboteurs in those tunnels without even blinking. We knew this. The CIA knew this. But we decided that his knowledge of physics was more valuable than the 20,000 lives crushed under his boots. We didn't just hire him. We protected him. We gave him a lab, a massive budget, and the keys to the American dream in Huntsville, Alabama. We told you he was apolitical, a scientist just doing his job. That was a calculated deception. We knew he was an opportunist who wore the swastika to get his funding, and we let him wear the stars and stripes to get our results. We won the space race, but every time I look at that grainy footage of the lunar landing, I don't see glory. I see the 20,000 ghosts who died in those tunnels so we could take a giant leap for mankind. But here's the second secret that will make your skin crawl. It wasn't just rocket scientists. We brought over the doctors, the mad scientists of the concentration camps who had performed horrific experiments on human beings. I saw the dossiers of men who had mapped the limits of human endurance by freezing people to death in vats of ice water or pressure testing their lungs until they burst. And do you know what the U.S. government did with that data? We didn't burn it. We used it. We put those very doctors to work for the U.S. Air Force, studying how to keep our own pilots alive at high altitudes. Our modern aviation safety protocols, the very things that keep you safe when you fly across the country today, were built on the screams of innocent children and prisoners who were tortured by the men we paper-clipped into our military-industrial complex. We told ourselves that if we didn't take them, the Soviets would. Fear of the Russians became the blanket that covered every moral failure of the 20th century. We were so afraid of losing the next war that we became the very thing we claimed to hate. I remember the 1950s, the decade of silence. I spent my days shredding letters. I've never told anyone this, but I remember a stack of envelopes from survivors who had arrived in New York City only to see the men who tortured their families featured in magazines as distinguished American scientists. They wrote to the State Department. They wrote to the Pentagon, begging for an investigation. My orders were simple. Lose the letters. We were building Huntsville into Rocket City, and we couldn't have the public knowing that the town's elite were former members of the Nazi Party. We imported a culture of cold, detached efficiency that didn't care about the human cost as long as the utility was high. We traded the soul of our justice system for the propulsion of a rocket. We told the American people that these men were rehabilitated, but you can't rehabilitate a man who built his career on human bones. We just taught them how to speak English and how to hide their secrets behind a white picket fence. What the government buried next is even darker. The connection to MKUltra. Many of the paperclip scientists we brought over were experts in breaking the human spirit. They had spent years in the camps perfecting mind control, chemical warfare, and psychological torture. When the CIA started its secret mind control programs in the 1950s, guess who they called? They used the same paper-clipped minds to design experiments that would eventually destroy the lives of thousands of unsuspecting Americans. They brought the ideology of total war, the idea that there are no civilians, only targets, into our own intelligence agencies. When you look at the surveillance states and the high-tech warfare of today, you are looking at the grandchildren of Project Paperclip. We integrated their methods and their coldness into our DNA, and we've been living with the fallout ever since. We told ourselves we were protecting freedom, but you cannot protect freedom by using the tools of tyranny. I see you young people in 2026, obsessed with your technology, your AI, and your progress. I want you to ask yourselves, what are you willing to overlook today for the sake of the next big thing? Who are you willing to hire to get to the next level? History isn't just a list of dates. It's a series of moral compromises. We allowed 1,600 monsters to become American heroes because we were afraid, and that fear has dictated our foreign policy for 80 years. I spent my life filing those secrets away, hoping they would never see the light of day. But secrets are like radiation. They leak out, and they poison everything they touch. The poison of Project Paperclip is in the very air we breathe today. It is in the cynical belief that the end always justifies the means. It is in the way we value the result more than the truth. I want to tell you about a boy I met in Huntsville in 1962. He was the son of one of the paperclip scientists, and he was so proud of his father. He told me his father was a genius helping us win the Cold War. I looked at that boy and I felt a deep, hollow sadness because I knew the truth. I knew that his father's genius was fueled by the blood of the innocent. We created a fake history to maintain a fake peace, and we lied to our own children about who their heroes were. But a peace built on a lie is just a pause between wars. I am 99 years old, and I am tired of the pause. I want the truth to be the only thing left standing when I go. The Saturn V rocket is a beautiful machine, but it is also a monument to our moral bankruptcy. If we had to use the designers of the V2 to get to the moon, then maybe we didn't deserve to go. We were in a rush. We are always in a rush. But where are we rushing to if our souls aren't prepared for the destination? My final warning to you, as the last gatekeeper of these files, is to look behind the success. Look at what the government is burying today in the name of AI or the next great weapon. Don't let them use a paperclip on the truth. Demand to see the blood on the hands of the people you are told to admire, because if you don't, you are just another unit of production in a machine that will discard you the moment the mission is over. I was a gear in that machine. I was part of the cover-up. And I am sorry. I am sorry to the victims whose names were shredded in my office. I am sorry to the families we ignored. I am sorry to you, the American people, for helping to build a dream on a graveyard. I hope you are braver than I was. I hope you realize that a country is only as great as the truth it is willing to face. Thank God for one more day. Now go and look for the things they buried. Not because it's easy, but because it's the only way to be truly free. I can still hear the roar of the engines at the Marshall Space Flight Center. It shook the earth and people cheered, believing they were witnessing something divine. But for me, that roar always sounded like the screams from the Mittelwerk tunnels. It was a mechanical thunder that tried to drown out the conscience of a nation. Don't let the noise of your own success drown out your soul. The higher you fly, the more important it is to remember where your fuel came from. Our fuel was tainted. Our foundation was cracked. I hope you build something better. I hope your rockets are fueled by hope instead of fear. I am 99 and I am finally at peace because the secret is out. I've said what needed to be said. Now the burden is yours. Carry it with honor. Don't let the paperclips win. I remember the day von Braun died. There were glowing obituaries in every newspaper calling him a visionary. But I looked at his file one last time before I retired. I looked at the photos of the Dora Mittelbau camp. I looked at the hollow eyes of the men who didn't survive his vision. And I realized that history had already forgotten them. We had replaced the memory of the victims with the glory of the moon. Don't let the shiny objects of the future blind you to the crimes of the past. The past is never dead, it isn't even past, It is living inside the institutions we trust. Be the generation that breaks the silence. Be the generation that values a human life more than a technical achievement. The archives are cold, and I am ready to be warm again. I've spent too many years in the dark with the ghosts of 600 scientists. They weren't just names, they were a choice. We chose the moon. We chose the weapon. We chose the win. What will you choose? I hope you choose the truth no matter how much it stings. I hope you choose to be a person of character in a world of units. Thank God for one more breath. Now go make it count by being real. For the boys who were expendable, for the scientists who were saved, for the country that lied, goodbye, and may you find the courage to see what is buried in plain sight. I can still see the faces of the men I worked with in that basement. We were all good men. We were all patriots. We were all just doing our jobs. That is the most terrifying phrase in our language, just doing my job. It is the phrase that built the camps, and it is the phrase that covered them up. Never let your job become a substitute for your conscience. You are a human being first and a worker second. Don't ever let a paperclip be the only thing holding your moral compass together. I am 99 years old, and I am finally, truly frank. No titles, no secrets, no redactions. Just an old man telling you that the truth is the only thing that will keep you from becoming a ghost in your own life. The rockets are waiting. The countdown has started. But before you launch, look down at your hands. Make sure they are clean. Because if you get to the moon with blood on your hands, you'll find that the moon is just as cold and empty as the heart that took you there. I've seen enough coldness to last 100 lifetimes. I want you to have the warmth of a clear conscience. I want you to have the pride of an honest life. Don't trade it for anything. Not for a star, not for a medal, and certainly not for a government secret. Goodbye, America. I loved you enough to tell you the truth. Now do something with it. I'm closing the door now. The files are back in their boxes, but the words are in the air. You can't unhear them. You can't unknow them. You are now a witness to Operation Paperclip. You are now a guardian of the truth. What will you do with it? Will you bury it again, or will you let it change the way you see the world? The choice is yours. 99 years. And it feels like a single afternoon in that basement. Make your afternoon matter. Be brave, be kind, be true. Goodbye. I've had a lot of secrets pinned to my soul, but the only thing I'm taking with me into the dark is the memory of those who were sacrificed for our American dream. They were the real heroes. They were the ones who stayed in the tunnels so we could live in the light. Don't waste the years they gave you. Don't spend them in anger or fear. Spend them in pursuit of what is real. That's how you honor the deleted. That's how you keep the promise. I'm 99 and I'm ready to rest. But I'm resting with the hope that you heard me. 99 years. Thank God for every second of it, especially the secret ones. They made me who I am. Goodbye. Every 8 minutes, 24 hours a day, for 9 years, a plane load of bombs was dumped on a country of farmers during the secret war of 1964, a war we claimed wasn't happening. Project Paperclip was the pilot program for that kind of institutional lying. We learned that we could do anything as long as we were improving our technology. We learned that the public would forgive any sin as long as we gave them a shiny new toy. Don't be the public. Be the person who asks why. Be the person who says no, because if you don't, the paperclips will just keep piling up until they bury us all. Thank God for one more day. Go live it with your eyes wide open. Goodbye.